Hey guys, M2 Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series Spider-Man 60 Amazing Years, the 60th anniversary of Spider-Man. Of course, this is that anniversary premium line that we get every year. This is the Iron Spider that originated from the Marvel Comics Civil War event. So here, the Iron Spider figure is looking pretty goddamn good. We've gotten an comic Iron Spider before, by Hasbro, but something that was not very good. I mean, it was probably decent at the time. There were a couple of different versions. This is a translucent version. There was one that was not translucent. It's not super metallic, but the gold was actually really nice. The Waldos kind of sucked. So here we have a nice new update that is beautiful. I mean, super metallic. I love the way it looks. First, let's talk about the packaging, which I usually start with the figure still in the packaging, but now that it's plastic free, you can't see it anyway. I've already removed it and posted pictures to Instagram. If you're curious on how it looks when you first open the box to take it out, I have pictures on Instagram. I'm no longer gonna really be doing that. I think at this point, we kind of already know what to expect with the plastic free packaging, how things are inside the box. So, you know, there's some cardboard inserts. These are kind of stuck in the cardboard inserts and inside of some paper bags, things like that. So we won't really go over it anymore, but here is what the box looks like. They are significantly smaller than a standard old school Marvel Legends box, which, hey, look at that. I do happen to have one here. So width-wise, they're actually not as wide, and then they are not as tall. So it's a lot smaller, which is pretty crazy that we see that now. But anyway, comic artwork on the side looks very cool. Digital render on the front, digital render on the side, digital render on the back. And you can see he does come with a pair of interchangeable hands, which, holy moly, I think I've lost. I guess I will find them, but they're just whipping hands, red metallic whip hands that are, man, I think I really lost them. Anyway, that's just the package. Big shout out and thank you to Nicholas, Vanilla Poser on Instagram. He his order was processing with Entertainment Earth and he offered it up to me. So thank you, I appreciate it. Follow him on Instagram. I'll have a link in the video description below. These are also hitting Targets now, so you are so likely you'll be able to find them in stores because, you know, Target stores are getting them at 6 at a time or whatever, so it shouldn't be too difficult to get. But here we have the Iron Spider figure, and again, looks really cool. So I know people are going to ask and they're going to say, but the torso doesn't match the arms and the legs. And you're right, it doesn't match because different types of plastic. So PVC for the arms and legs, ABS for the torso, because it's a harder plastic. They are never going to be an exact match. You see that on all kinds of figures. Essentially every single figure, there are going to be some subtle differences. Now, some of them, they get a closer match, sure, but with this one, because of this type of metallic plastic, it just didn't come out right. It's not as noticeable as you might think. Pictures under bright light, yes, you're going to see it, but let's get in for a closer look so you could show you that having it in hand, you're not really going to notice a whole lot of difference. Okay, super bright light. Here we go. Looking at the torso and the hip portion, you could see there's actually, it's a lot more metallic, so you could see some of the marbleization in there. Now, it's not like crazy swirls like you see with some figures, but you can tell some of the marbleization in there. The arms and the legs, we actually don't see that. Really, so the reds are similar, but yes, they are a little bit different. Having it in hand, it's not as noticeable. Even here, I don't think it's even all that noticeable, but yes, it is in fact slightly different. It does not bother me. I understand if it would bother you, but again, I think it's pretty minimal when actually having it in hand. But again, you'd have to really have it in hand to really see. In terms of accessories, we get the thwip hands. So I found them. Here they are. And then we get the Waldos. So the Waldos just port on in the back of the figure like so. That is it's probably like pegged in there and like glued. You can't really remove it on there. But these Waldos just kind of peg in there. They come inside the package like in its own box. And once you peg them in, holy crap, they're difficult to get out. I was pulling the entire time, and you know, obviously I don't want to just yank it because I want to be careful, but they just port in there and they can swivel around. You can move them however you want. There's a couple of points of articulation. There's one right where it pegs. There is another one right here that is not a point of articulation, and then there is not another point of articulation until here. So this, even though it looks like there is, it is not. Even though here, even though it looks like there is not. So that's kind of a bummer that all those points joints do not get any articulation, but I think with the way it is, you can get it into certain poses and positions the way that you really want. This is a new body mold because the Iron Spider logo on there is all molded. It's not just painted on there, so that is kind of interesting, and we do get pinless elbows and pinless knees there, and I just now noticed that, but that is some sloppy gold paint right there. So that kind of sucks. It was all good until there I had a little nick, but otherwise not too bad. Now I know, you know, with the plastic free, you can't see without a window, you can't see the paint apps and things like that. Ordering it online or getting it shipped online, it ends up not being something that I can control anyway, because that's how I usually get all most of my figures. But I understand that these QC issues are going to seem like they happen more frequently, when really it's probably the same. It's just now, because we don't see it ahead of time, you know, people pick it up and get mad that way, and rightfully so. The QC issues shouldn't happen, but they are bound to happen. But you know, in the grand scheme of things, that's not terrible. That's not terrible. There are some that probably come out really, really worse. Okay, moving on up to the head sculpt, and you can see there, it is a very stylized for Iron Spider specifically, so that is a new head sculpt. We likely won't see that head sculpt used with anything else throughout the figure. There is some gold on the calf and the feet there. That is a separate sculpted piece, so you actually get a swivel there. But yeah, it looks really good. Looking at the Waldos, it's done in this like mustard gold paint, plastic color. It is not painted or anything like that, so obviously the gold's not going to match the shiny gold parts of the Iron Spider logo or the gauntlets, but I think it's actually fairly close enough that it really works. But there is the sculpt of it, and that looks pretty good. If I were to extend this all the way out, I guess it would be there, because again, there's no, it doesn't articulate there, it articulates here, so you can't actually get them fully straightened out. But I don't think it's too bad. I don't mind it. Anyway, let's look at the articulation. So these Waldos might get in the way a little bit here, kind of throughout. But anyway, Iron Spider, Peter Parker, he can't look down that much. He can look up all the way. That is not a problem. Full rotation, swivel on that neck. You get a tiny bit of pivot, not a whole lot. The shoulder you can get easily straight out, which is nice. You get a full rotation in there. Watch out for the Waldo. There is a butterfly joint. Doesn't work a whole lot, so it only goes back so far. Coming forward isn't a whole lot, but in terms of crossbody, you can do that much there. Upper bicep swivel in there, and it's nice and smooth. Double jointed pinless elbow, so you get that much bend at the elbow there. Wrist swivel, and they do hinge, and you have the standard hinge. Same hinges on the fists as well as the thwip hands. We have an ab crunch on here. Now I know folks would probably prefer diaphragm cut, because that's, you know, the ultimate articulated Spider-Mans. That's what they're using. Why the ab crunch? I'm sure it has something to do with this piece here having a diaphragm cut. Maybe they couldn't quite get it right. I'm not sure. I mean, the Superior Octopus has a diaphragm cut, but it's not, I don't think it was as big as this. Maybe it's a support thing also. If you had the diaphragm cut on there, maybe it could have weighed too much to one side to where then you would see him lean. I'm not sure. I'm not a toy engineer to understand that for sure, but I think that's probably what was going on there. Ab crunch, you can crunch forward that much, and you can actually hear the ratcheting. A little, well, I guess back you didn't really hear it, but he can crunch back that much. Oh, look at that. Back to the ratcheting coming forward. There is a waist swivel on there since we don't have a diaphragm cut. Legs go out that far apart, which is really good. There's no drop down feature. He can't kick forward that high, which is great. Leg actually goes back pretty far. Upper thigh cut in there. Double jointed elbow. Pinless double jointed elbow, and that was stiff as hell. That much bend at the, knee. Double jointed knee. Knee. Elbow, knee. Double joint there, and I showed this earlier, but there is a swivel at that gold boot. Foot hinges down all the way. A little tiny bit of hinge up, ankle pivot, peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So about the same as like the Spider-Man 2099 body, because we get all the same points of articulation, essentially, other than I think the calf swivel, which that one did not have, or it may have. It probably has the calf swivel, so pretty standard articulation. Diaphragm cut would have been nice, but again, I don't know if feasibly they can actually make that happen with the engineering, but, you know, maybe. Oh, and then, of course, articulation points of the Waldos. Again, there, you get it out, fold it in, and then here at this end piece, you can fold in that much, or kind of go out there. And then again, these swivel so you can get them all around, so you can hinge down or you can hinge all the way up that way. So you can get these into a bunch of different crazy positions. So let's check out a few that I can come up with now by Google searching images and just trying to copy those. Okay, so here's one pose where I have it using the Hasbro flight stand where you can kind of get it into certain poses. And this was the cover of Spider-Man 529, the first appearance of the Iron Spider suit. So you can do a few different things. The Waldos can get in the way, but then just, you know, you got to reposition them. You can't really get it exactly to how some of the comic artwork would be because there is semi-limited articulation in the Waldos themselves to where you're not going to get them to bend as easily and be in certain positions, but it's not terrible. Okay, and here's one I was really hoping that I would be able to recreate, but I just don't have the skill level necessary to be able to do that, to recreate the cover of Civil War #3 where Spider-Man is kind of on top of a web-covered shield. I wish I could, I can't figure it out. The Waldos would not necessarily support the weight of the figure standing up, but I know that some people have been able to do something, but here I'm cheating and using the Hasbro flight stand. I wish I'm gonna play around with it some more, but I don't know that it can happen. It would be pretty epic if it could, but it may not work, sadly, unfortunately. Okay, so again, it becomes a real juggling act, but you can fake it by doing something like this, where if I just move the shield, you can see kind of how they're sitting on there. So it can support the weight in some ways, but like the point end of the Waldos, definitely there's no way to really get it to support the figure to make it work. But I don't think this was terrible, but it's definitely not accurate. But I tried, right? Do I get points for that? Let me know. Okay, now I'm super cheating. I'm using just the Hasbro Pulse flight stand and just kind of stuck the Waldos into those peg holes where the stand itself would peg into. And this kind of works, right? I think I kind of got it. Definitely cheating, but it is, it looks a little better, right? I think so. Okay, so let's do some side-by-side comparisons. Again, this was that Hasbro Iron Spider release, the translucent red plastic version. Not a very good figure. Proportions are very weird. Bulb joint hips are terrible. Articulated fingers, which I am not a fan of. It's just at the time, you know, this is kind of where action figures would in terms of engineering. We've come a long way since then. To today's standards, it's not very good. At the time that it released, I'm sure it was actually pretty good. But there we have the two together, and it's about time that we get an updated Iron Spider figure. Okay, and here we have Iron Spider in between Captain America and Iron Man. I chose this Iron Man because they're going to be similar in terms of red and gold. They are not the exact same, but they're pretty similar. The Iron Man has more yellowish tint to the gold itself. The reds are fairly close, but I think Iron Spider kind of has a deeper red than the Iron Man, modular Iron Man figure does. And some Spider-Man comparisons here. We have the ultra articulated Renew Your Vows Spider-Man here with the toe articulation even on there, and you can see he is bulkier and about the same height as Iron Spider, but definitely bulkier. So the Spider-Mans, they don't necessarily all scale real well to each other. You would hope that these two would be a little bit closer in size, but not quite. But I wanted to show you these two Iron Spider figures. So we have the MCU version and the comic version. Comic version has 3 Waldos. That is not a mistake or error on anyone's point. It was just designed with 3. Why 3? I'm not actually sure why, because wouldn't it make sense for a spider to have 4 Waldos? 2 arms, 2 legs, that's 4 plus 4 Waldos is 8. Spiders have 8 legs, do they not? I always thought it was weird, but it is what it is. That's kind of really accurate. So, yeah, just one of those things. But that's why the MCU has 4 Waldos, because I think it made more sense to do 4 than to do 3. One thing that I would actually like to see, and Hasbro would be able to reuse the Waldos for this, is if they did a Mary Jane version of the Iron Spider, because at one point in one of the Iron Man comics, was it Iron Man or Spider-Man? It was one of the Iron Man comics, Mary Jane actually puts on the Iron Spider suit, and I think this is actually around the time that Regent had come into the main 616 universe. So for my monthly plug or weekly plug, whenever I get a chance to mention it, Hasbro, give us a Regent figure from Spider-Man Renew Your Vows Volume 1 during the Secret Wars event. I would love to see Regent. I think you guys would too. Let me know in the comments below if you think you would, or if you would like to see a Regent figure. And then let me know what you think of the 3 Waldos versus the 4. Personally, I think 4 would be really cool, not 3, because I think it just looks odd, but it's still cool. Not as cool as 4. So it's, I wish you can actually get like figures to look as natural as possible, but for me to try and get Punisher to hold a busted ass Peter Parker in figure form doesn't really work out. I wanted to try and recreate that. It doesn't work, unfortunately, but this was the best that I could do. But anyway, my final thoughts on the Iron Spider figure. I think he's really cool. Do I think the price is ridiculous? Yes. $31.49 at Target. I want to say $33.99 everywhere else. That is the new pricing. I think he's kind of considered a deluxe figure, but I think that is a mega stretch because these Waldos alone don't make it a deluxe figure, in my opinion. He only comes with extra thwip hands, no wall crawling hands or open hands, and then fists. That sucks. No Peter Parker head sculpt. Things like that are just kind of a bummer. Like a battle damaged head sculpt I think would have worked perfect for this particular storyline for Civil War, but we didn't get that. So, you know, the Waldos are cool. I didn't mention this before, but you can technically get a little bit of a swivel out of these points of articulation, although I don't recommend it, is because you might damage the Waldos, but you can kind of get in there. I think I tried on this one. You can a little bit too, so I would just be careful on how you do that. But the Waldos are cool. The figure is cool. The torso does not bother me. It's not very noticeable. Having it in hand, I think you'll have a different perspective on it. The tough thing is if you see it in store, you're not actually going to be able to see the difference in color between the torso and the arms and legs because there's no window in the package. It is plastic free, so that also sucks there. Just kind of one of those things, I guess. You know, we've all talked about the plastic free. Does it suck? Yes. Does it bother me all that much? Not really, because I order online. I'm blind to see what comes in anyway. But if you're in store, yes, it does make a big difference, and I feel for you guys. Mint on card collectors, sucks for you guys as well, but it doesn't change the fact that you still got the figure and you still have the package in what would be a good condition. So it's kind of there, kind of on your own preference. But anyway, you guys let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of this Iron Spider figure? I think it's pretty good. If you can find it on sale, go for it. $31.49 I don't think is super terrible, but the $33.99 that you'll find at other sites plus shipping, yeah, that kind of gets a little too high priced. Give it some time. I think you might be able to find some deals on them. I don't think it's going to be one where it's going to be gone and you know, super quick and you won't ever be able to get it. Maybe take your time on it a little bit, but I think it is still a good figure, and I think it's a must-have for Spider-Man fans, or if you love the Civil War comic event. That was the first comic book that I read, and I absolutely loved it. So, you know, Iron Spider, gotta get it, right? But you guys let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on the Iron Spider figure. If you guys are interested in joining the MCU Collective, hit the join button for the channel membership. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and as always, thank you for watching.